change. Not all at once, maybe. I'm still gonna love fighting, but I'll grow in other ways too. I'll be the father Gohan and Goten deserve. I'll be the husband Chi-Chi married. I'll be the leader Earth needs." He smiled then, but it wasn't his usual carefree grin. It was something deeper, wiser, more complete. "I won't stop being me. That's not what you're asking, but I'll become a better version of me. I'll flow and change and grow in every direction, not just in power. That's what it means to really be like water, right?" Aquaria's entire form shimmered with approval, her essence radiating warmth despite being made of water. "Yes, Son Goku, that is exactly what it means. You have passed the second trial, not because you learned a new technique, but because you learned a new truth about yourself. That is worth more than any amount of power." The dragon's form began to dissolve, breaking down into millions of droplets of cosmic water. But unlike Ignis's dramatic transformation, this was gentle, peaceful, like rain falling on a calm lake. Each droplet floated toward Goku and merged with his body, flowing into him and becoming part of his essence. The sensation was different from absorbing Ignis, where the fire dragon had burned and forcibly reforged him. Aquaria's essence flowed into him naturally, filling spaces he hadn't known were empty. He could feel his ki changing, becoming more fluid, more adaptable. The rigid forms and transformations he'd relied on began to loosen, becoming starting points rather than fixed states. As the last drops of Aquaria merged with him, Goku felt the two dragon essences beginning to resonate within him. Fire and water, destruction and adaptation, two opposing forces finding harmony in his soul. But he knew there was still one more trial to come. The ocean drained away, pulled by forces beyond comprehension, leaving Goku standing on solid ground for the first time since entering Shinron. But this ground was different from the floating islands he'd first encountered. It was ancient stone, weathered by eons of existence, bearing the weight of countless worlds and ages. Just standing on it made him feel small, insignificant, a brief flicker of life on something eternal. The ground began to shake, not violently, but with the slow, inevitable tremor of continental drift, of mountains rising over millions of years, of the very bones of reality settling into place. Then Goku heard them. Footsteps. Boom. The sound reverberated through his entire body, through the ground, through the air itself. Boom. Each step felt like the march of inevitability, like the turning of the cosmos, unstoppable and eternal. Boom. Goku looked up and his jaw dropped. In the distance, a mountain was moving. No, the mountain was moving. The mountain was alive. The mountain was the dragon. Chapter 3. The Unbreakable Mountain. Tarak of the mountain's spine was impossibly massive in a way that defied comprehension. Where Ignis was huge and Aquaria was expansive, Tarak was immense. His body was formed from living stone and ancient earth. His scales were mountain ranges. His claws were tectonic plates. Crystals the size of skyscrapers jutted from his back, each one containing the compressed history of galaxies. His eyes were deep caverns that went down to the molten core of existence itself, glowing with the primal heat of creation. When Tarak moved, continents shifted. When he breathed, volcanoes erupted into being and then went dormant. He was ancient beyond ancient, old beyond old, the physical manifestation of permanence in an impermanent universe. Each step the dragon took shook Goku to his core, not just physically, but spiritually. This wasn't pressure from overwhelming power. This was something else. This was the weight of eternity, the pressure of inevitability, the crushing force of something that simply was and always would be. "I am Tarak of the mountain spine." The dragon's voice was like an earthquake-given speech, like the grinding of continental plates, like the slow collapse of stars into black holes. Each word carried the weight of eons. "Foundation of all that endures, guardian of the eternal core, the one who has stood unmoved since the first atom found stability. You come seeking the dragon god's mantle, son Goku. But tell me, what good is power built on a foundation that crumbles? What use is strength without the will to wield it when all hope is lost?" Tarak's massive head lowered, bringing those cavern eyes level with Goku. Within those depths, Goku saw the births and deaths of entire universal cycles, the slow, patient existence of stones that had witnessed the rise and fall of 1,000,000,000,000 civilizations. "Third trial. Show me your will can stand unshaken against any force. Show me you possess the immovable core that defines true strength." Unlike the previous 2 trials, Tarak didn't attack immediately. He simply stood there, an immense presence that radiated pure, overwhelming pressure. And that pressure began to increase. At first, it was subtle, like standing in heavy gravity. Goku had trained in 100 times Earth's gravity before, so this was nothing. He stood straight, his posture relaxed but ready. Then the pressure doubled. Goku's knees buckled slightly before he caught himself. This wasn't physical weight, it was something deeper. It felt like reality itself was pressing down on him, trying to force him to submission, trying to make him acknowledge that he was nothing compared to the eternal mountain before him. "That all you got?" Goku said with a confident grin, though he could already feel the strain. He powered up, his aura exploding around him as he transformed into Super Saiyan God, his hair shifting to crimson as divine ki flooded his body. "I've trained under King Kai's gravity, survived Beerus's pressure, and stood against Jiren's overwhelming presence. I won't break." Tarak said nothing, but the pressure increased again. Goku gritted his teeth, his divine aura flickering as the pressure doubled once more. His muscles tensed, every fiber of his being fighting against the invisible force crushing down on him. Sweat began to pour down his face despite his godly form. He powered up further, the crimson aura intensifying as he pushed Super Saiyan God to its absolute limits. The ground beneath his feet cracked and splintered from the clash of energies, his divine power pushing upward against Tarak's immovable pressure pushing down. But still the pressure increased. "Kaioken!" he growled, his aura beginning to pulse with crimson energy overlaying the divine red. "Times 10! Boom!" His power exploded outward, creating shockwaves that should have shattered mountains. The multiplication of his already godly strength should have been enough to resist any force. But against Tarak's pressure, it barely made a difference. Goku dropped to one knee, his right leg trembling as he fought to stay upright. His vision began to blur at the edges. It felt like the entire weight of the universe was sitting on his shoulders, like every world, every star, every galaxy was pressing down on him simultaneously. "Times 20!" he roared, his voice straining with effort. His aura turned into a violent mixture of crimson and red, crackling with unstable energy as his body struggled to contain the multiplication of power. His muscles bulged, veins standing out on his forehead and arms. The ground around him shattered completely, leaving him standing in a crater of his own making. But the pressure continued to increase, relentless and inevitable as the march of time itself. "Strength of body means nothing here," Tarak's voice boomed, each word adding more weight to the already crushing pressure. I am not testing your muscles, warrior. I am not measuring your energy. I am testing your will, your determination, your refusal to break no matter what stands against you. Power up all you want, transform into any form you possess. It changes nothing. The question is not, can you be strong? The question is, can you remain you when everything tries to crush you into submission? The pressure increased again, and this time Goku couldn't fight it. His left knee hit the ground, joining his right, both hands pressed against the stone beneath him just to keep from being flattened completely. Blood dripped from his nose, from the corners of his eyes where the pressure was so intense it was rupturing capillaries. "No," he gasped, every word an effort. "I won't give up." His mind raced desperately, searching for a solution. He'd faced overwhelming opponents before, being stronger than him, faster than him, more skilled than him. But he'd always found a way. There was always a transformation, always a technique, always something. Blue. He could go blue. That was his most balanced divine form. With a roar of defiance, Goku's aura shifted from red to azure as he transformed into Super Saiyan Blue. The godly blue energy crackled around him, more controlled and refined than his previous form. This was the pinnacle of combining godly ki with Saiyan power, the form he'd trained for years to perfect. But even Super Saiyan Blue made no difference against Tarak's pressure. "Ultra Instinct!" Goku shouted, desperation creeping into his voice. His hair turned silver white, his eyes became mercury pools of calm, and his aura transformed into the crystalline silver energy of the god's ultimate technique. His movements became automatic, his defenses perfect, his body achieving the separation of consciousness and action that even most gods couldn't master. But Ultra Instinct was about dodging attacks, about moving without thinking. There was nothing to dodge here, nothing to counter, just relentless, crushing, absolute pressure that cared nothing for technique or transformation. The pressure doubled again. Goku collapsed completely, his face pressed against the ancient stone, his body pinned like an insect under a boot. He couldn't move, couldn't even lift a finger. His Ultra Instinct flickered and died, unable to function when there was nothing to react to. His divine energy scattered, overwhelmed by something that existed beyond the concept of power. "Is this it?" he thought, panic rising in his chest. I can't beat this. There's nothing to punch, no weakness to exploit, no trick that works. I'm going to fail." "Stand up, son Goku," Tarak commanded, his voice carrying both disappointment and challenge. "Or admit defeat. Choose." Goku's fingers clawed at the stone, trying to find purchase, trying to push himself up, but his body wouldn't respond. The pressure was too much. He was pinned, helpless, defeated by an opponent he couldn't even fight. Images flashed through his mind, all the times he'd been knocked down before. Raditz, his own brother, breaking his ribs with a single punch. He'd gotten back up. Vegeta, during their first fight, beating him so badly he couldn't move. He'd gotten back up. Frieza on Namek, impaling him through the chest. He'd gotten back up. Cell, destroying him so completely that King Kai thought he was dead. He'd gotten back up. Majin Buu, who'd killed him and everyone he loved. He'd gotten back up. Beerus, who'd casually flicked him away like he was nothing. He'd gotten back up. Jiren, who'd been so overwhelmingly powerful that Ultra Instinct nearly wasn't enough. He'd gotten back up. Every time, every single time someone had knocked him down, he'd found a way to stand back up. But why? Why? Tarak asked, as if reading his thoughts, or perhaps because the question was the point of the entire trial. Why do you get back up, Son Goku? Why do you refuse to stay down? Is it pride, the Saiyan need to prove superiority? Is it the thrill of battle, the addiction to fighting? Is it simply because you don't know when to quit like a stubborn fool? Goku's mind struggled to answer, his consciousness fading under the crushing weight. Pride? No, that was Vegeta's thing. The thrill of fighting? That was part of it, but not the core reason. Stupidity? Maybe sometimes, but not always. Then what? Why did he always get back up? Because... Goku forced the word out, speaking into the stone, his voice barely a whisper. Because there are people counting on me. Is that all? A sense of responsibility? Duty? Tarak pressed, the pressure increasing yet again, threatening to crush Goku into the atomic structure of the stone itself. No. Goku shook his head, or tried to. The movement was less than a millimeter, but it was there. It's more than that. He thought about Gohan as a child, looking up at him with those innocent eyes, believing his dad could do anything. He thought about Goten, who he'd never even met until the boy was 7 because he'd been dead. He thought about Chi-Chi, waiting for him to come home, always waiting. He thought about Krillin, his best friend since childhood, who died so many times protecting others. He thought about Master Roshi, who taught a wild monkey boy to be a martial artist. He thought about Bulma, who gave him his first adventure beyond the mountains. He thought about all the people of Earth, living their lives, never knowing how many times they'd been saved. But it was more than even that. I get back up because... Goku's voice grew stronger, fueled by something deeper than energy, something more fundamental than power. Because that's who I am. Even if there was no one left to protect, even if Earth was gone, even if everyone I loved was dead, I'd still get back up. Because the memories crystallized into a single truth, a core understanding of himself that had always been there but never articulated. Because giving up means accepting defeat, and I'd rather die standing than live kneeling. I'd rather be destroyed trying than survive by surrendering. It's not about being strong. Enough. It's not about winning. It's about never, ever letting the universe tell me I can't do something. Something shifted inside him. Not power. Something deeper than power. Something fundamental to his existence. When Raditz beat me down, I didn't have the strength to win, but I got back up anyway and found a way. When Vegeta was going to destroy Earth, I didn't have the strength to stop him, but I got back up and found allies. When Frieza killed me on Namek, I got back up as a Super Saiyan. Every time someone said you lose, or you're not strong enough, or this is impossible, I got back up and proved them wrong. His fingers, which had been limp and useless, suddenly clenched into fists. The pressure was still there, crushing, overwhelming, absolute, but something inside Goku refused to acknowledge it anymore. This pressure, this weight, it's just another thing trying to keep me down, Goku growled, his voice gaining strength. Just another force saying you can't. Just another mountain saying you'll never climb me. Slowly, impossibly, against pressure that should have been able to compress him into a singularity, Goku's arms began to straighten. Millimeter by millimeter, he pushed himself up, not with energy, not with power, with pure, absolute, unbreakable will. But I don't care how impossible it is. His body rose a centimeter, then 2, then 5. I don't care if it takes me 1,000 years. His chest lifted off the ground. I don't care if I die trying. He got one knee under him. I will get back up. Boom! Goku forced himself to standing position, every muscle in his body screaming, blood pouring from wounds caused by the internal pressure. He wasn't using any transformation. His hair was black, his eyes were black. He was just Goku, base form, mortal, finite, but standing. The pressure increased again, trying to drive him back down. It should have worked. By all logic, all physics, all cosmic law, he should have been crushed flat. But Goku remained standing. Not because he was strong enough, not because he had some hidden power, simply because he refused to fall. His will, his absolute determination, his core essence that defined who Son Goku was, that immovable truth, was stronger than the pressure of eternity. That, Tarak's voice boomed with unmistakable pride and approval. That is the answer I sought. That is the immovable core that allows mortals to challenge gods. That is the will that cannot be broken. For the first time since the trial began, Tarak's massive stone face shifted into what might have been a smile, cracks forming in the ancient rock in a pattern suggesting approval, perhaps even joy. Immovable will is not about being stubborn, though you are certainly that. It is not about refusing to change. You learned that lesson from Aquaria, and I am pleased to see you understood it. Immovable will is about having something at your core that can never be broken, no matter what happens. A truth about yourself that remains constant as everything else changes and evolves. The pressure vanished instantly, and Goku gasped, able to breathe freely for what felt like hours. His legs shook violently, trembling to collapse, but he forced himself to remain standing through sheer determination. Blood still dripped from various wounds, and his body ached in ways he'd never experienced. But he was standing.
Your truth, Son Goku, is that you never give up, Tarak continued, his cavern eyes gleaming with ancient wisdom. Not because of pride, like Prince Vegeta, not because of duty, like your son, Gohan, but because surrender is fundamentally incompatible with your existence. That core of your being, that is immovable. Everything else about you can and should evolve. Your power will grow, your understanding will deepen, your relationships will mature. But that core, that refusal to accept defeat, must remain constant. It is the foundation upon which everything else is built. The massive dragon lowered his head until one enormous eye was level with Goku's entire body. In that crystalline cavern of an eye, Goku saw reflections of every time he'd refused to give up, a lifetime of determination crystallized into a single image. In the battles ahead, you will face forces that can destroy your body with a thought. You will encounter beings that can manipulate your energy, making you weak when you need to be strong. You will meet enemies that can alter your very mind, making you doubt yourself, making you question your purpose. Your transformations can be countered. Your techniques can be learned and surpassed. Your power can be matched or exceeded. The dragon's eye blazed brighter, the light of creation's core shining through. But if your will remains unbroken, if that core truth of who you are stays solid, then you can endure anything. You can come back from any defeat. You can find a way forward when all paths seem closed. That is the power of an immovable foundation. That is why you, a mortal from a low-level universe, have been able to stand among gods and angels. Not because you were born strongest, but because you possess the will that refuses to break. Tarak pulled back, his massive form beginning to glow with an inner light that seemed to come from the molten heart of a billion worlds. Stone and crystal shimmered, becoming translucent, revealing the core of pure energy within. Remember this, Son Goku. In your darkest moment, when all seems lost, when your power fails you and your allies have fallen, when the enemy seems insurmountable and death is certain, Remember that your will is the one thing that cannot be taken from you. It can only be surrendered, and you will never surrender." The massive dragon's entire body began to break apart, but unlike the dissolving of Ignis and Aquaria, this was a shattering. Tarak exploded into millions of crystallized fragments of eternal strength, his immovable nature, his unbreakable will. The fragments flew toward Goku like a meteor storm, each one slamming into his body with the force of a planet's worth of momentum. "Ah!" Goku screamed as Tarak's essence merged with him, joining with the fire of Ignis and the water of Aquaria. Where the fire had burned and the water had flowed, the mountain essence anchored. It settled into the deepest part of his soul, creating a foundation that could never be shaken, a core that would remain solid no matter what forces tried to break him. He could feel all three dragon essences resonating within him now, creating something greater than the sum of their parts. Fire gave him the understanding of destruction as creation. Water gave him the ability to flow and adapt. Mountain gave him the unbreakable core that would hold firm no matter what changed around him.
When it finally ended, Goku collapsed to his hands and knees, breathing heavily. But when he looked up, his eyes had changed. They held a depth they'd never possessed before, the wisdom of dragons layered over the determination of a Saiyan warrior. "Thank you," he whispered, not knowing if Tarak could still hear him. "All three of you, thank you." For a long moment, there was silence. Goku remained on his hands and knees, not from weakness now, but from a sense of reverence. He could feel the three dragon essences inside him, pulsing with their own rhythm, teaching him even in their silence. Then, the realm of Shinron itself began to change. The ancient stone ground dissolved. The cosmic sky compressed. The entire dimension seemed to be folding in on itself, reality bending in ways that defied perception. Goku found himself rising into the air, not through his own power, but carried by forces beyond his understanding. "What's happening?" he called out, looking around as the world collapsed and reformed around him. "The trials of the three great dragons are complete." The original voice that had greeted him upon entering Shinron returned, echoing from everywhere and nowhere. "But your true test has only just begun. You have learned the lessons, you have gained the essence, but knowledge without application is meaningless. Power without mastery is danger. You must now prove you can wield what you have been given." The collapsing realm reformed into something new, a vast arena of crystalline energy that stretched infinitely in all directions. The floor, walls, and ceiling, if they could be called that, were made of pure, solidified consciousness, shimmering with every color that existed and some that didn't. And surrounding Goku, appearing from the very fabric of reality itself, were beings. Hundreds of them. They weren't dragons, they weren't gods. They were something else entirely. Consciousnesses given form, cosmic entities that existed before matter coalesced into the first atoms. They were the thoughts of the universe made manifest, the dreams of reality given shape. Some appeared humanoid, others were geometric patterns that hurt to look at. Some existed in 3 dimensions, others in 4 or 5 or 12. Some were made of light, others of darkness, still others of concepts that couldn't be perceived directly. "Welcome to the crucible, Son Goku," one of the beings spoke, its voice a harmony of 1,000 tones. "You have passed the trials of understanding, learning what destruction truly means, what change requires, what will must be. Now you must face the trial of becoming. Here you will fight, you will struggle, you will learn, you will die, and you will be reborn, over and over again, until you transcend what you are and become what you must be." Goku slowly got to his feet, his battle-worn body protesting but obeying. Despite everything he'd been through, despite the exhaustion that weighed on him, he felt a spark of excitement ignite in his chest. A challenge, a real challenge. "How many times?" he asked, clenching his fists.
How many times do I have to die and come back? The beings all spoke in unison, their voices creating a sound that was simultaneously terrifying and beautiful.
Until you succeed. Until the lessons of the three dragons are not just understood, but embodied. Until you don't just know the path, you are the path. Until Son Goku dies and the Dragon God is born. Before Goku could respond, before he could even take a defensive stance, the first entity attacked. Chapter 4: The Crucible of Rebirth, Part 1. What followed defied conventional description, for time and space had no meaning in the crucible. Seconds could become years, years could become seconds. Cause and effect were suggestions rather than laws. Death was not an ending, but a transformation. The first entity that attacked Goku was a being of pure kinetic energy. Every movement it made multiplied in force exponentially. Its first punch carried the force of a normal strike. Its second punch carried the force of a planet's destruction. Its third would crack a universe in half. Goku's instincts kicked in immediately. He dodged the first strike easily, his body moving with Ultra Instinct's automatic precision. The second strike came faster, and he phased slightly out of sync with reality, letting it pass through the space where he'd been. The third strike, boom! Even though he wasn't hit directly, the shockwave from the punch caught him, and the force was so immense that his body simply came apart. Not violently, not painfully. His molecules lost cohesion and scattered across dimensional boundaries. Goku died for the first time in the crucible. But death here was different. He felt his consciousness persist even as his body vanished. He existed as pure awareness, floating in the void between existence and non-existence. Then, like a fire being rekindled, he felt himself being pulled back together. Swoosh! Dragon fire, cosmic, primordial, creative, erupted around his scattered essence. Following Ignis's lesson, the fire didn't just restore him, it refined him. His body reformed, but it was slightly different, more efficient, more adapted to the environment of the crucible. Goku's eyes snapped open and he was standing again, facing the same entity. But now he understood. Death wasn't failure here, it was feedback. Every time he died, he learned. Every rebirth made him stronger, not in raw power, but in understanding. "All right," he said, his voice carrying new determination. "Round 2, let's go." He engaged the kinetic entity again, but this time he applied Aquaria's lesson. Instead of dodging the strikes, he flowed with them. When the first punch came, he let his body become like water, absorbing the force and redirecting it. When the second punch came, he adapted his entire structure to harmonize with the kinetic energy rather than resist it. The third punch came, carrying universe-shattering force. Goku didn't dodge, he didn't block, he became kinetic energy himself, matching the entity's nature. The punch passed through him because they were both the same thing in that moment, pure motion without solid form to be destroyed. The entity froze, its featureless face somehow conveying surprise. Then it nodded in approval and dissolved, its essence flowing into Goku, teaching him how to manipulate kinetic forces in ways he'd never imagined. But there was no time to celebrate or rest. The second entity appeared, this one made of temporal paradoxes. It existed in past, present, and future simultaneously. Every attack it made had already hit and hadn't happened yet at the same time.